Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? What a crazy, crazy loss for the Devils tonight. I almost said boxing match for the Devils tonight because that's essentially what it was at times tonight. They fall to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Final score 5-3 in favor of Columbus. The Devils are now 16-9-1 on the season. They are 4-5-0 without Jack Hughes. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to us here on Speaking of the Devils. I'm your host, Ryan Novozinsky, joining you right here from the media room in the Prudential Center, which was, again, the site of the Devils' 5-3 defeat at the hands of the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Not a barn burner, a old school hockey game with a lot of fights, with a lot of crazy moments in this one. But before we get into that, let's thank our friends over at New Spine for sponsoring us here on Speaking of the Devils. With 7 locations, they are New Jersey's leading institute for minimally invasive spine surgery. Live your best life pain-free. Visit New Spine. That's New Spine, nu-spine.com. Once again, that's nu-spine.com to find a location near you. With that out of the way, guys, let's get into what was an insane, insane game. All of the insanity kind of happened after the first couple of goals, which we can recap those really quick. Nico Hischier scored to kick things off. The Devils actually got off to a 3-1 lead in this one, but that feels like ages ago that was the deficit there for the Blue Jackets. Nico Hischier scored. He's got 7 goals, 5 assists in 9 games since Jack Hughes went down. Andre Palat scored 2. Nemitz forced a turnover. Gritsuk tossed it to Palat. And after Gritsuk kind of flubbed on the first attempt, and then Palat was able to bury it. Great angle from Palat right in front of the net. That is his 4th goal in the last 50 games. That is his 17th goal in the last 100 games. For a guy that's making $6 million a year, you got to give stats like that just because of that's how bad things have been for Palat. Let's see. There was the Timo goal, but that was called back for goalie interference. Although I thought that it looked like Nason was kind of pushed into but I don't know, kind of a chintzy call. But we move on to the real start of this game, which came early in the second period. Brendan Dillon falling face first onto the ice. He slammed his face on the ice. It was absolutely brutal. Voronkov grabbed him by the front of the sweater, slammed him all of his weight down, which kind of crushed Dillon's face onto the ice. He could barely get up on his own afterwards, even with the help of the trainers when they came out. He couldn't get up. Lots of chippiness in the immediate aftermath. 3 scrums broke out. Adam Fantilli fought Siegenthaler. It didn't look like Siegenthaler wanted to. And then in the aftermath of this, Siegenthaler was given a game misconduct for violating what's called the Rob Ray rule, which is funny. We talked about Rob Ray on a couple podcasts ago. We asked Ken Danico about him. But that rule basically mandates the player to secure their jersey to their pants with the fight strap to prevent it from being pulled off during a fight. So it kind of makes sense, but kind of doesn't. Sheldon Keefe was really pissed off about that during the in the post game. From there, again, there were just scrums after scrum after scrum, fights near the middle of the second. This was when things kind of settled down. The immediate aftermath. Sean Monahan scored a goal in between the start of these fights and then the start of these new fights and then the Dillon incident itself. Severson went at it with Timo. 28 on 28 crime, former 28 and the current number 28 of the Devils. Timo was able to actually poach his number from him afterwards. After Severson left for the Columbus Blue Jackets in free agency. Voronkov fought with Nason. I thought that was probably the best fight of the night. Brendan Smith fought Cotter. That was kind of a weird one. And then Glass and Monahan scrapped for a little bit. Not exactly a fight, but 2 guys that definitely are unsuspecting of being in a fight there. And even just getting physical in general. From there, again, we talked about this being kind of a boxing match with Devils, a Devils Blue Jackets game intertwined in between. I think the Devils forgot that they had a hockey game to play after this. That's when the barrage of goals came on for the Blue Jackets. Once again, at the time it was 3-1. Then then Sean Monahan scores. Then Charlie Coyle scores. Then Zach Werenski scores. Timo scored to make it 4-3, but then Columbus was able to bury it at the end. I can't remember exactly who scored for Columbus at the end. You'll just have to bear with me for 1 second. It was Miles Wood, of course. Oh my gosh, I didn't even write it down in my notes, but yes, it was Miles Wood. A very memorable goal there for sure, because the Devils always allow goals to the guys who used to play on their team. They lead the league in that category, as per 32 Thoughts the other day. This was just it was just a terrible night all around for the Devils. I know you get excited about the fights, but let's face it, the Devils lost most of those fights. They were playing with 4 defensemen, and Chalowski has been struggling too, and Luke's been struggling, and Dougie's been struggling. So you can even pretty much just knock it down to 1 defenseman if you really wanted to shave a lot of them off. Of course, because Siegenthaler, as I mentioned, got the game misconduct, so he was out for the game. This team, it was a bad game from Allen, Jake Allen. We'll pull up the nerd stats right now, but I can't imagine they're very good. Let's pull them up. He let in a couple softies tonight. This is a guy that needed to step up in the fit. Yeah, okay. Terrible nerd stats. Goal save above expected tonight for Jake Allen, minus 3.08. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. If we're going to grill Markstrom whenever he has a bad game, and he has a bunch of them, Allen's had more good than bad this year. There's no doubt about that. But you got to grill Allen too for the same thing. But yeah, that was, there's a lot to sum up. I think this is one that we can just pretty much ride with the comments and see what you guys have to say. So we'll get into those as early as possible on this show. And we thank you all for tuning in to us today and spending your Monday night listening to us, because that was a crazy Devils game. I'd be listening too if I were a Devils fan. But we encourage you guys to like and subscribe and share the link with your friends. We are now monetized, guys. I should say that. We are now monetized. So if you want to get your question in, you can go, and I think you should be able to post a super chats into the link. I don't have it up on right now, but if you can post a super chat, please do post a super chat, because it really would help support our channel. But let's get into it, guys. Zach Chin says, excluding the line brawl against the Rags, what was the best fight you've ever seen with the Devils? Oh man, good question there, Zach, right at the top, and you usually do ask good questions. I'm going to defer this one until I get to think about it for a little bit, but there's been some really good ones. There was a Nason Holla fight in the Hurricane series a couple years ago. I'm going to defer. I'm going to give that one a good thought, Zach, and I will answer that, I promise you, in the next stream. But yeah, let's move on for now, because we have a lot more current events to go on right now, including Mikey Mike, who says, at least Jake and Markey take turns being useless. Yeah, that's the one thing the Devils have not been able to find this year, is synergy within their goaltending tandem. When one is off, the other one tends to be on, and vice versa. When one is really on, the other one tends to be really off. It's been a brutal cycle in that regard this year. So yeah, that's not good. Let's move on. Zach Chin, I guess we adrenaline dumped in the second period because we were lifeless in the final frame. Just a depressing loss considering everything with Dilly. Yeah, lots of pregame fare. I mean, I was expecting, when the Devils go up 3-1, I was expecting this to be sort of a positive stream, sort of one where we can reflect on, hey, Brendan Dillon gets his thousandth career game. What a story for him, coming from being an undrafted guy and grinding through the league and becoming an awesome defenseman in the league. And this year, he's off to one of his best starts ever. He's certainly better than I thought he would be. But we're not able to talk. We're really, we would be doing a disservice if we talked about any of that tonight, because it's just, that's not the story of the game anymore. The story of the game is the Devils got in this boxing match and ended up becoming lifeless after that. After a very unfortunate play for Brendan Dillon. And I'll say this, I'm thinking in the press conference right now, that just happened several minutes ago here, I'm thinking to myself, how the heck was this guy allowed back in? How the heck was this guy allowed back in? Now, it's protocol. These guys have to clear the concussion protocol 100%. But, that's not, it looked like that was a surefire, like, even if he's not concussed, why are you as a medical staff putting him back in? Now, the answer from Sheldon Keefe, because I asked him that question exactly, was, he said that Dillon is good. Like, Dillon was, it may have just looked worse than it actually was. So that's what Keefe says. We'll see if that turns into a thing where that's a little more long term. I don't know, because a lot of the injuries this year for the Devils have started pretty minor and then they ended up being something bad. But the word from the Devils right now is that this is precautionary. That the reason he was taken out in the third, he did come out for a little bit in the third, but he was taken out for precautionary reasons. So that's what they say until they prove otherwise, which could happen, at practice or whenever. We'll just go ahead and believe them. Let's move on. But that was my number one question going to the press conferences. That's the only question I asked in the press conferences. Why the heck was Dillon allowed back in? Zach Chin, I'm also worried we are no longer the dominant team at home, undressed by the Flyers and out-hearted by CBJ. I don't even know what to say about this team at the moment. Well, what you can say about this team is that they're missing a lot of players. Without Jack Hughes, they're 4-5-0. That's probably better than we all expected them to be without Jack Hughes. But right now, I would agree there are definitely some concerning trends of late, Zach. There are definitely some concerning trends of late. You look at the defensive woes. You look at Allen tonight was bad. Goaltending in general has been pretty inconsistent outside of some excellent Allen games, obviously. But there's been no synergy in that group. Like you watch, like Markstrom's going to have the game of his season against the Dallas Stars on Wednesday, and that's just been the story for the Devils and their goaltending situation this year. No synergy, but I don't know. I think that right now there's some reason to panic, but I think you just look at the record right now. They still got 16 wins. They're still banking points at an important time when their superstar is down. Tyler Seba, at some point, Fitz needs to be aggressive and acquire depth for this team. But by the time he does it, it will be too late. Yeah, I think the league is just quiet right now. There are some teams, Vancouver, for instance, and I want to say Nashville, they're at least shopping guys around that are pretty much open for business. Maybe he can poach some guys over there. But again, it's also one of those things where he doesn't want to pay the extortion price, the extortion-esque price that some of these GMs are giving out right now. And again, I think some of these GMs need to just kind of, get with it a little bit and understand that. I know your first offer is obviously you're going to try to get as much value as possible in some of these deals, but come on, let's be a little more realistic about this. You're not going to get an A prospect and a first-round pick for Ryan O'Reilly. You're just not, Barry Trotz. You're just not going to get that. So maybe it's going to be more exciting when these GMs, a bad team, start figuring out, hey, let's be a little more realistic, and that's when Fitzgerald can kind of strike. But right now, things are not good. Things are not good. And I would agree with you. I think a move needs to happen sooner rather than later. Mikey Mike, also we better get Quinn, because if not, I don't know what use Luke is otherwise. Luke's had a bad couple games. Luke's had a bad several games here. I don't know what the issue is there. It's just almost like a Flandernized version of the nonsense that the bad aspects of his game, the turnovers, the giveaways, the careless puck play, and then the defensive struggles have kind of been the cherry on top there. Luke Hughes has not been a good hockey player lately, and you look. This is the second straight game where, if you guys like the analytics, the hockey stat cards, another ugly showing from him. Another ugly showing from Luke Hughes. He is at the very bottom, minus 2.57. I think he was minus 6.11 the last game, which was the 9th worst single game performance of any player this season. So that's not good. That is not good. Zach Chin, I get that we were down 2 defensemen for most of the game, but Hughes-Nemetz pairing needed to go yesterday. Yeah, I was so surprised, honestly, that Sheldon Keefe post-game was he had almost a forgiving tone. He almost had a forgiving tone after last game when I asked about it, and then I believe he was asked about it during practice today about it as well, about that pair and why they might not split up. And just almost a forgiving tone from Sheldon Keefe. And when discussing that, he's almost willing to deal with the lumps on offense the lumps on defense if it means generating good offense. But right now, I don't even know how much, I'd have to look at the numbers, honestly. But I don't know how much great offensive chances these guys are producing. I think I saw a couple highlight plays on the power play from Nemetz, but that was on the power play. That wasn't when he was with Luke. So, yeah, I would check that up. But right now, it's just, I don't know exactly what kind of move you make there. excuse me, I don't know what you do with the pairs. Let's just see. Let's hope that uh, Brendan Dillon. Sorry, I just completely blanked. Let's hope that he's okay, so you can you don't go down even yet another defenseman. Zach Chin, he references what I just talked about. The hockey stat cards is ugly again for those two. Also, I never want to see Chalowski on the ice for us again. Tyler Seba, putting Chalowski anywhere near this roster is a disservice to the rest of the roster. Third goal was on him, standing there and watching. Yeah, it looked like a term that I've seen. I might have saw somebody tweet this out, and I can't remember who. But I've seen this a lot this season. Is it looked like his controller died? It looked like his controller died. That's how you would sum up that third goal that Columbus had. He was just completely puck watching there. Ugly, ugly sequence from Chalowski there. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. At this point, you wonder, like, can somebody else make an impact on that on his side there? That's one of those on that right side. Seamus Casey can't be all that worse. Seamus Casey can't be all that worse. Mikey Mike, the fact that he plays in any games is a travesty. I assume you're talking about Chalowski. Yep. Yeah, that's why I mentioned off the top too. I mean, people talk about they're down to 4 defensemen, but I mean in reality it's really 3 because you got Chalowski there who hasn't been good at all, and then you have a struggling Luke Hughes and a struggling Dougie Hamilton, so that makes for a mess all around on the blue line. Zach Chin says, really pulling for Dilly, though, beyond hockey. He's such a genuine guy. Totally agreed. Totally agreed, Zach. Final point, maybe. No, there's no shot, Zach Chin. I already see like 5 more comments from you after that final point. Come on, Zach. Don't lie to us, man. No, I'm not kidding. I appreciate the support, Zach. Final point, maybe. Officiating has been brutal for us this season. I don't like to blame refs for losses, but there were several key moments where bad calls / no calls made a difference. Yeah, this was a big ref show tonight. I usually don't like to complain about it either, but that was there were some wonky calls there, and non-calls. New winning strategy, especially. I'm going to go back to this one for a second. That goaltender interference was bizarre. I thought that Nason, like there's an argument there that yes, Nason was maybe was the one that interfered there, but I also thought he was pushed. Is that just me? I don't know. New winning strategy, seriously injure the other team's stars and force them into a fight so they get ejected from the game when their jersey comes off. Yeah, that was the strategy for Columbus. If you guys haven't already, I'll put it in the comments right now. Go look. Sheldon Keefe, I think he even held back a little bit. So I can't even say Sheldon Keefe did not hold back after the game. No. He kind of held back, but he was still pissed in the post game. That was some refreshing, candid commentary from the head coach there. Just talking about that, talking about the fights tonight, talking about, he basically called out Fantilli outright. Zach Chin, we were winning in the jerseys. Maybe we need to roll with those for the foreseeable future. Hey, they're retiring them, so why not? Go out with a bang. Zach Chin says, sorry, I'm spamming. I'm just sad, bro. Zach, there's no need to apologize, my friend. We thank you for all your support. You are the man. Zach, speaking for all of us tonight. Zach, you are on a freaking heater tonight. Voronkov is just a grade A FDA and DAA certified D-bag. I hope Dilly gets revenge 7-fold on New Year's Eve, and it propels us to 750 going into 2026. Paul Connor was asked about it after the game, and he was reminded that these two teams. I don't think he was reminded of the dates that they play, but they do play December 31st, New Year's Eve, as Zach mentions there. And he said that he thinks that things will be extremely heated next time. I'm paraphrasing there, but in that tone, you watch the clip. He looked like he was somebody that was out for blood. Are we going to see a line brawl on New Year's Eve? I hope so. That would be so much fun. New Jersey Devil 950003 says that critical 4th Columbus goal only happens because Milewood grabbed Nemitz's stick and tossed it, an obvious penalty on the Blue Jackets. Yeah, I saw that too. That was pretty wacky. That was another missed call. A lot of those tonight, NJ Devil. Nick Santola, I see you were in the building, was right behind Jake for that entire disaster. Oh man, Nick, I would love to meet up next time. I think you even tweeted at me during the game, and it was like right around the time where something else crazy happened. So I'm sorry if I missed that. It was just a crazy night. Another point that I forgot to mention off the top: the Devils broke a rule tonight, guys. Or they potentially broke a rule. We'll see what happens, but. I was curious if the Devils, in honor of this 1000th game that Brendan Dillon played, all their players were skating with these hats, these really nice hats actually that read 1000 and Dillon on them. But that is, sorry, somebody was just opening the door there. That they potentially violated Rule 9.6 in the NHL official rulebook, which states that it is mandatory for all players who enter the NHL beginning with the 2029-2020 season or later to wear their helmet during the pregame warmup. To be clear, all players who entered the league prior to the 2019-20 season and who are currently playing are exempt from this mandate. So, players that started in 2029 onward, they're banned. You can't not wear a helmet on the ice. The Devils have 6 players that meet that criteria, and they broke a rule tonight. In doing so. Now I will mention this. This just happened in a game versus the Senators and the Sharks, and I looked up Curtis Pashelka of the Mercury News. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. No, yeah, I understand. Sorry about that. Another person just walked in. Where was I? Yes. So the San Jose Sharks and Senators just broke that rule too. But they were pretty much just given the biggest slap on the wrist because the NHL deputy commissioner basically just said, "Oh, we're just going to remind them. There's no fines or anything." But it's very of note, as journalists, you have to recognize when teams are breaking the rules. Nick Santola says this was the worst officiated game he's seen in a long time. The fact that the Devils never had a power play through all that stuff in the second period after the goal called back was rough in that building tonight. It sure was, Nick. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty. It was bizarre officiating tonight. Devils only had what? They had 5. They did have 5 power plays tonight, though. There were penalties galore. I mean, what is even the final minutes total on all this? I'm sure it's crazy. Yeah, 40 for the Devils, 34 for the Blue Jackets. Insane numbers tonight. Really heated. DK Misfit says, doesn't Tom Fitzgerald owe this team a trade? They're doing the best they can with a short-handed roster. I would think so too. There, DK Misfit. This is the time when you reward a team with a trade. This is the time when you reward a team with, as we mentioned in last stream, a center that can both play 3C but also bump up to 2C if need be. I think this might just be a league inactivity. I don't think this is lack of trying from Fitzgerald, but until he proves otherwise, I mean, at some point you got to get the deal done because other GMs are able to do that. So we'll see what ends up happening. Captain THC says Columbus Blue Jackets more like the Columbus Dirtbags. Am I right? There you go. Easy says any update on podcast? No update quite yet. I think the general stance right now there, Easy, is that we're trying to build YouTube as much as possible, and then we're going to move to those other platforms. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Bill Erdek says, any update on the status of Adirondack moving to new Trenton ECHL franchise? Last I checked, and this was a while ago, the Trenton franchise was not going to be affiliated with the Devils. That could change. I know that Adirondack is in the last year of their contract. I'm going to do some digging on that this week. Thanks for the reminder, Bill. But I remember last I checked, there was, everyone was pretty mum about it. They were just, no one really wanted to talk about it. So it could happen, but I don't know. There's also value in having, a local ECHL team. There's no doubt about that. There's also value in having, the more of the same. Adirondack has been their affiliate for a couple years now. Let's see. Crowder versus Probert. A few of them were the best fights in Devils history. Whippersnappers need to Google those. I need to Google those myself. They're New Jersey Devil. Captain THC, I don't think it was wise at all to let Dilly back on the ice after he got walked off. I agree, and that's why that was my biggest question going into the press conference was why the heck was he allowed to go back in? Sheldon Keefe said it was precautionary that he went out in general. That he left the game in general, and that Dillon was fine. The Devils alleged that Dillon was fine. So we'll see what ends up happening there if he doesn't, if he doesn't go to practice tomorrow or whenever they do end up practicing. We'll see. Easy says that top line is a threat every time on the ice, but man, after that it is thin. Yeah, that's depth scoring. Suns the last game that we went on a stream for has been kind of the issue for the team of late. But yeah, you'd like some of these other stars to perform as well. You'd like to see, let's see Jesper Bratt get a goal at some point here. Timo Meyer's been on a tear. Nico Heischer's been on a tear, but let's get some of these other guys to chime in as well. Captain THC, Luke seems lost sometimes. Are his pockets too full of money to play right, or does he just miss Jack? Actually, Luke was struggling before Jack because now that I think got cut. Now that I think about it, it hasn't been a good season for Luke Hughes. It hasn't been a good season for Luke Hughes. With all of the calling out that Sheldon Keefe has laid in the direction of Dawson Mercer for missing 1 or 2 days of training camp last year. You start to wonder when we're going to start seeing that when he's asked questions about Luke Hughes. When maybe there's a grace period that he gives him and he starts doing it next season or something like that. But as of right now, that seems to be the struggle for him is that he missed a Keefe training camp, and he hasn't looked too good. He hasn't looked too good, and he got paid. That's an even worse look is that he got paid after this. So, not great. Let's see. Easy says not going to miss our 2026 or 27 first round pick. I agree. I would totally trade one of those. So, yeah, draft picks are on the table right now for me to trade. Whatever. Screw your picks. F them picks. Daniel Hughes says, who would you start in net on Wednesday? I'd probably start Markstrom. It's a gamble. Because Markstrom's not great of late either. Allen had a bad game and has proven that he can bounce back this year. I don't know what you end up doing, but I'd probably lean Markstrom just because, just to lean into this goalie split. You got two 35-year-old goalies. You might as well split them. Zach Chin says, Nova will be in the building on Wednesday. I would love to meet up during an intermission. Zach, I will not. That's actually a new development. I was supposed to go to the Wednesday game. Here's why I'm not going, because I am traveling somewhere to do a really freaking cool interview early Thursday morning. We'll be going live with two amazing guests on Thursday morning, so mark your calendars. Announcement to come. But point being, I will not be because Wednesday's kind of a travel day for me because I need to be at a location in a state that's many states away to interview these two really, really cool Devils people. One of which was mentioned in today's newsletter, one of the names. So if you guys want to go check that out, please go. I tweeted it earlier today. But yeah, we got two really cool guests. So I will not be at Wednesday's game. I will not be at Friday's game. I will be at Saturday's game at Boston. But I promise you the only reason I'm not going to these games is because we're getting really cool content for this show. So that's the reason. That's my long-winded way of saying that. Kimberly M says, on the bright side, at least we never let a goal in during the whole time we had an empty net. Yeah, that is a little bright spot, I guess. Look at that, a little silver lining in this gray cloud. Seemed like attendance was lighter than usual. That's the first thing that I noticed tonight, Easy. Even like 20 minutes till puck drop, I was like, where the hell is everybody? Me and Slip and Jimmy Nichols and Daniel Amoya were talking about that in the press box. We also had a great debate about wings versus flat or drums versus flats. I'm a drums man. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but that's just who I am. Tyler Seba, the Olympic break will be good for Luke. A time to reset and start over missing the portion of training camp. I agree. That's a good little point there. He needs a break because things are rough right now. Captain CHC, I'm not buying the missing training camp excuse. That's a flat out weak excuse. What else are you chalking it up to? That I mean, look, there's things in his game that are full of risk. I would agree with that. The giveaways, the careless play at the blue line, and the shot has been bad this year. So maybe these are things that are just kind of magnified now that he is making $9 million a year. But yeah, things have been rough there, Captain THC. My thoughts, Tyler Sheba says, my thoughts are on Luke is that he's being asked for a lot for a 22-year-old. Luke will be good, but right now it's a lot. That's a good point, too. His minutes are completely up right now in the absence of Pesci, and he needs Pesci back, too. He needs Pesci to shoulder that load. I didn't even read the second half of your comment, but Tyler Sheba said just that. Pesci helps shoulder a lot of that load. He's exactly what a young D-man needs. That's why Pesci fits so well, and that's why he's the MVP of the defense. Desert Hawk 42. I know he's still a few weeks away, but has there been any update on Jack? No update so far. Again, they're reevaluating this sucker in how many weeks has it been since that point? But I mean, again, it was the 6 week mark. Whatever the 6 week mark of that injury is, that's when they're going to reevaluate him, and they'll see. He could be back by Christmas. We'll see. That's the optimistic timeline, but we shall see. Easy says drums are much easier to eat. Thank you, and I think they're more enjoyable because with the flats, you're having to go in there and you look an animal. Guys, that'll do it for this stream. Thank you so much for tuning in to Speaking of the Devils. Thank you to our sponsors at New Spine and U-Spine. We will be going live. I will still be going live. There will be a stream on Wednesday, but again, I'm not going to be at the game physically because we're having a lot of fun stuff this week. So Thursday, mark your calendars. Thursday morning, I think at 10 a.m., we have a really cool guest coming on, and we have 2 guests coming on that day. So please mark your calendars. And then we will be live in Boston on Saturday for that Bruins versus Devils game. Cannot wait for that. But guys, until then, have a great day. Thank you for tuning in.